It is definitely fall here in the Pacific Northwest. Layering has begun. The heater in my house has been turned on. My walkway is covered in leaves. We are definitely in mid October, which has brought me to this video. Happy fall. I know it's been fall for a while, but I don't know if I've officially told my viewers happy fall. If you're anything like me, you enjoy summer. You enjoy the warmer months, the warmer climates, and you look forward to warmer days ahead. But we must go through winter first to get to summer, right? Spring and summer. And it's a lesson I've learned since living in this beautiful part of our country. So what I want to do in this video is I have my book in front of me. I've written some notes because I don't dare do this off memory. I want to share with you my top 5 camping spots in Oregon. Now, I have camped in many different places in the Pacific Northwest, but I want to keep this specifically to Oregon. And maybe in the future, I'll do a video of, like the Washington area. And because there's and I feel like I'm still truly just exploring and figuring out where to go in Washington. There's so many places. And I'm just finding that I love the Olympic Peninsula and just that whole area of Washington. So honestly, that could be a video in itself, but today I just want to focus specifically on my top 5 of Oregon. So if you're visiting our beautiful state, or if you live here, this video is probably right for you. If you are interested in camping, and these campsites that I'm going to go over, you can actually camp in some of them in the winter. So I always encourage you to do your own research. If you're going to go to any of these spots, Google these areas, just depending on the time of year or whatever, and just make sure that they are open, and just make sure that it's a right spot for you. So let's get started. I'm going to give you my top 5, and I'm going to start with number 5, and we will count down to number 1. And number 1 actually kind of surprised me. I'm not going to lie. I'll talk about it more when we get to number 1. So number 5, Bellnap Hot Springs. So Bellnap is located about 150 miles from the Portland metro area. It is located on the McKenzie River. And the way that we discovered Bellnap Hot Springs was actually through our friends who we camp with, Mike and Audra, had told us about it. They'd camped there. They're like, you guys have to check this place out. And so we did. John's favorite river in Oregon is the McKenzie River, and Bellnap Hot Springs sits right on the McKenzie River. Now, the thing about the McKenzie is there's not a lot of public access on that river, and that river flows very fast. It's not a river that, I'm sure there's like calmer spots that you can get in, and but again, me and John, I've actually never been in the McKenzie River. John has fished it a few times. Him and Mike actually did. Mike bought him for his birthday a chartered fishing trip, so that was super fun. They got to eat their catch right on the bank of the McKenzie. So it's actually John's favorite river is the McKenzie River, and Bellnap Hot Springs sits right on that river. So Bellnap is it's a campground and a lodge. You can stay there in the lodge. It is an interesting campground. Let me say that. It's interesting. You don't go there for how do I put this? It reminds me of parking lot camping. Now, when I say that, it's just not a big open asphalt with lines and you park your trailer. The spot we have stayed, it's a lot like that though. It is, you don't have a ton of privacy. It is a beautiful campground. It's very, They kept it, it's very manicured, it's very clean. I think it just depends on the spot that you get. So do some research. And if you are going to stay at that campground, just do your research and find a camp spot that you think is going to work best for you. We have taken our Casita to that campground. It has full hookups. It does not have sewer, if I'm remembering right. We had to go across the way to actually dump. Not a big deal. But we had water and we had electric hookups. They have 2 big soaking pools, one at the top tier and one down by the lodge, which is the lower half of the campground. If you stay on the lower part of that campground, you're kind of basically right on the river. The part we stayed on, we were above the river, but I mean, you go to the back of your trailer and you can see the Mackenzie flowing right by. Also, Bellnap Hot Springs has a secret garden. I did a video on Bellnap. Watch that video. I did a video all on its own. We walk through the secret garden. It's just a cool history. It's just a cool spot. So if you are looking to go, and they are open year round, they do get snow in that area, so check your road conditions in winter. But it is so fun to go on a really cold weekend and just soak your soreness, your cares away. It really is such a cool area to just go and soak if you enjoy that kind of thing. So that's my number 5, Bellnap Hot Springs. Number 4, I hesitated putting this one in because I feel like anybody who comes to Oregon to camp that doesn't know a lot about this state or where to camp goes here. And so my number 4 is Fort Stevens State Park. I hesitated putting this in, and let me tell you why. I think everybody should camp at Fort Stevens State Park at least once in your life. It is a very cool park. It's on the Oregon coast, and you can actually, from your campsite, you can take a walk to the beach. It's a little bit of a walk. You're not like right on the beach, but you can take a walk to the beach. They have, trails that you can ride your bike on. But here's why I put this in as number 4. So John and I enjoy winter camping. Fort Stevens has full hookups. Some sites even have sewer. We love to take our trailer, and we've only had our trailer almost a year. We love to take our trailer last year when it was off season. They are open year round. Fort Stevens is a very, very busy campground, but when it's off season, it's not so busy. There was a time that we went that I think there was only 2 of us in the whole loop. It was glorious. It was so wonderful because if you can catch a good weekend on the coast, you have the opportunity to walk up to the beach. Again, it's an opportunity just to be active and just enjoy your area. And I think Fort Stevens is actually a very pretty campground. It's just so busy. So if you are going to go to Fort Stevens and you have a trailer with a heater that you can camp in the winter, go in the winter. It is so fun. They have showers, they have flush toilets, they even have yurts. So it's just a cool place. It's a good jumping off point to get to Astoria, Oregon. Astoria, I think, is famous for the Goonies, but it's also just a really cool city to see. It sits right on the Columbia. You can see the huge ships coming in. You can see where the Columbia meets the ocean. I mean, there's just so many cool things to do in Astoria. So that is my number 4, Fort Stevens. I think just for location, it is a very pretty campground. A lot of history to it. It was a fort. You can actually go see that part of Fort Stevens. And it's open year round. So when you can catch a good weekend on the coast, hit Fort Stevens. That is my number 4. Okay. Number 3. La Pine State Park. This is a fun park. We actually stayed here last summer. I don't know, did we stay once or twice. I don't remember. Okay, Lapine State Park. It's about 200 miles from the Portland metro area. I live on the western side of Oregon, so I live on the outskirts of the Portland metro area. So for me to get to these places, I'm doing this from kind of the area I live in, but taking it as Portland metro. So we're about 200 miles from Lapine State Park. This is a fun state park to stay in. Let me tell you why. You have gotten yourself onto the eastern side of Oregon, and you will be in the Deschutes National Forest. You're about 20, when you stay at Lapine State Park, you're about 26 miles south of Bend, which I'm sure if you are from Oregon or are visiting Oregon, you've heard of Bend, Oregon. Such a cool town. I had always said, remember I'm from California, but I had always said if Chico, California and Santa Cruz, California had a baby, it would be Bend. That is my opinion. No other Oregonian has ever said that. That is just my take on Bend. The great thing about staying at Lapine State Park is if you are a kayaker, if you are a floater, if you like to just be in the water, you are on the Deschutes River. And where we stayed at Lapine State Park, you can actually do a float. The first year we did it, we floated on inner tubes, and that was just so fun. So basically you have to have two drivers. You leave your car at the launch spot at the campground, and then where you take out, the other driver leaves their car and you get in the car and you drive back. The first year we did it on inner tubes. This past year we did it on our kayaks, and it definitely went a lot faster on kayaks. And I think it was a little bit more comfortable because we actually had an ice chest with us. You can have an ice chest on tubes, but this was a lot of fun. We stopped along the way. We got out. We swam. The Deschutes, no matter if it is 100 degrees at Lapine State Park, which you're in Eastern Oregon, so it definitely gets warmer in the summer over there. No matter the temp, the Deschutes is always cold. I have never felt the Deschutes River warm up. And if you live in that area or you are very familiar with the Deschutes River, leave me a comment if you have ever felt the Deschutes warm, but I have never felt it warm. We got out of our kayaks in certain spots. We floated with our life jackets. We swam. It was so fun. It was so warm outside. So we were hot from just being on our kayaks, and to be able to jump in the cold Deschutes was just such a cool experience. And it's just a fun float. It is such a fun float. So that's our big thing when we go to Lapine. We always have means to do that float. And we make a day out of it. We are truly on the water for a day. Lapine State Park also is a great area for like biking. They have many hikes that you can do. Just remember, if you are going to camp at Lapine State Park in the summer, it does get very, very warm, or it can get very warm. So all right, I took a little break, went and got my coffee filled. And what's so funny is I pulled out my organ cup. I did not do that on purpose. I think it was honestly fortuitous. And and Jasper's decided to join me for our final 2 top camp spots, in my opinion, in Oregon. All right, so we left off at Lapine State Park. Great park. We are now headed to number 2. And this is actually my absolute favorite campgrounds in the state of Oregon. And you're going to say, well, Carrie, why isn't it number 1? I'll tell you when we get to number 1 why. Because Cultist Lake still is my favorite spot. Cultist Lake was introduced to me by our friends. They had camped there before and said, you guys need to check this place out. I just expected, we were tent camping at the time, and I expected a campground on a lake. Okay. We are headed to Cultist Lake, tent in tow. We did not yet have our Casita. And come to think of it, I do not think we have camped there yet with our Casita, and I'll tell you why. So we have our tent in tow and we are headed to Cultist Lake, and we pull in, and my, oh my, is it beautiful. First of all, the drive, it's about 214 miles from the Portland metro area. So it is a little bit of a drive. It is off Highway 58. Highway 58 is probably my favorite highway in Oregon. And when you drive it, you'll know why. Especially if you drive it on a clear, blue, sunny day. And we pull in, and we're in the Deschutes National Forest, and we see Cultist Lake Lodge, and I see this just gleaming lake in the sun, just sparkling, beckoning me to come explore its shores. And we get our tents. John gets a tent set up because I don't dare help him set up the tent. And we head to the lake. I had my kayak, and it was beautiful. Cultist Lake is actually a natural glacier formed lake. It is great for fishing. It's great for kayaking. It's great for swimming. There's boats on it, motorized and non-motorized, whatever floats your boat, you can do on that lake. You can rent boats at the lodge. I'm sure you can rent kayaks. I don't know. I've never really looked into that. But it is my favorite, by far my favorite campground. And when we go to Cultist Lake, we go to Cultist Lake. We're not there to go into Bend, because Cultist Lake is in Eastern Oregon. It's a little bit of a drive into Bend, but you could do that if you wanted to. And we have done that in the past. But when we go to Cultist, we go with the idea of we are going to be on the lake that whole time. And it is just, now we have been there before. I think it was 4th of July weekend. And the big thing in Oregon is summer doesn't start until the day after 4th of July. And I have had years, I've been here for a while now, so I can, almost 10 years, I can say that is sometimes very true. And sometimes summer has started earlier than that. There was a time we were at Cultist Lake, 4th of July weekend, and it rained all weekend. We literally went and set up our big canopy tent on the shore. And Mike and Audra, if you're watching this, you'll remember this. And we sat under the tent and sulked and just watched it rain on the lake. Oh, that was a bummer. But you know what? You take that chance when you're in Oregon. But Cultist Lake, oh, it's my favorite, guys. It is beautiful. The thing with this campground is very, very busy. You have to make reservations. They do have a handful of first come, first serve. I would never chance driving that distance to try and get one of those spots. Maybe during the week I would. But if you're going a Friday through a Monday, you have to make a reservation. And literally we have been on, I think it's I would have to look at the website. It's either 6 or 9 months in advance. Remember, camping in Oregon is a sport. You have to be on your game. I am thankful for my friends. I'm thankful for my husband, because they are definitely more on their game than I am when it comes to this. But John has literally set his alarm to wake him up when camping reservations open, and we still have not been able to book Cultist. So Cultist is by far super popular, super beautiful. If you have a boat, this is a great lake to go boating on. We only have kayaks. We've never rented a boat while on Cultist, but we've actually talked about it because there's so much of the lake to explore. It's cold. It's a cold lake. Although we have camped there when it was pretty warm. And I want to say, okay, there was a year that Portland, Oregon reached 116 degrees. It half killed one of my trees in the front yard. We were camping at Cultist when this happened. Now, you're at elevation when you're at Cultist, so it's always cooler than obviously when you're at sea level, right? Because we are inland from the ocean, but we're definitely at sea level. It was like 94 at Cultus. I remember this. So it was like 116 here. It was 94. And I remember being neck deep in that lake and it just feeling so good. I love Cultist Lake. It's just special. I feel like it's such a clean lake, and I just love the higher altitude lakes. And especially when they're natural, and just, yeah, I do love Cultus. It's a very easy lake to swim in, I feel like. um so yeah, it's a great spot. If you are able to get a site, um let me know. Let me know, because I might jump on and be like, oh, let's see what we can do, see if we can get a spot too. But Cultus Lake is my number 2, which brings us to number 1. Let me take a drink of my coffee. All right, number 1. I camped here for the first time this past summer and fell in love. Camp Sherman. Camp Sherman in Sisters, Oregon, in the Deschutes National Forest. Camp Sherman is about 150 miles from the Portland metro area. So not a horrible drive at all to get to. Puts you in eastern Oregon. Again, you're in the Deschutes National Forest, and Camp Sherman sits on the Metolius River. The Metolius River is a beautiful river. I've done it. I did a video on this camp trip, and we actually stayed in Smiling River, which was right down the street from the Camp Sherman store. If I'm remembering right, from Smiling River, it was like a mile walk to the Camp Sherman store. The Camp Sherman store alone was just so cool. In the back of the store, they have a fly fishing store, which John is a fly fisherman, or likes to do that. I wouldn't say he does it all the time, but when he does fish, he likes to fly fish. And they were so incredibly helpful. He got some really great flies in the back of that store. They have groceries, they have a breakfast bar, they have coffee. Just like a very eclectic store, but very fun, very put together. And the staff was just awesome. We actually hiked along the Metolius River to the Camp Sherman store. And it was just fun. We just did it to do it. It was just great. You're right along the river. The flowers were blooming. It was like late spring, early summer. The river was flowing. There was something magical about this place. I had seen the Metolius River, but had never really spent time on the Metolius. John had spent a little bit more time than me, but I had not really spent time on it. And I think it must have just been the time of year. We just must have hit it right with all the wildflowers. The pine trees were so different. Now, where we camped in Smiling River, we had 0 hookups, which was fine. We have John's truck, and so when we needed coffee, we would plug it into John's truck and did all of our other cooking outside on propane. It was totally like fine. It was good, huh, Jasper? Jasper agrees. Was it good? Yeah, it was good. We went into Sisters, Oregon one day when we were staying there, and actually walked the town. I had never really been in Sisters. And we'd always driven through it, like when we were leaving Bend or whatever, but had never really spent time in Sisters. That was super fun, super cute. Let's see how many times I can say super. The way that they have the spots, I felt our spot was just very quiet. It's not like you're out there by yourself. You will see your neighbors, but it's very wooded. We had the privacy that we wanted. And it was really nice. We were still able to have fires at that point, and it was just a really, really nice experience going to Camp Sherman. And I had never been there. In all my years in Oregon, I had never been there. And so I was really excited to see it, and I want to go back in late spring, early summer, because those wildflowers on that hike along the Metolius were spectacular. And you're also not far from the headwaters of the Metolius. I didn't think that it was something I would be really interested in seeing, but we went and saw it anyway, because why not? We're right there. I think we were only a couple miles from it. We drove there. And then you walk down this really beautiful paved path and you see these headwaters of the Metolius. And it was just breathtaking. I just really felt connected to nature in this area, and it's what I needed at that time. Coming out of a really long, dreary winter, you seek that. you are looking for that come spring. So Camp Sherman is my #1 camp spot that everybody should see, and we stayed at the Smiling River Campground. I moved to Oregon almost 10 years ago. There was a deep pride in people that were born and raised here. And I understand that, but I didn't understand the depth of it until I have lived here for the length of time that I had. I was proud to be from California. I was a 4th generation Californian. My mom would always tell me that. And not that I 100% agree with California's politics. I don't 100% agree with their taxes or some of the laws that they have. I was proud to be a Californian, and I still am proud to be from California. It's my history. It's where I was born and raised, right? And there's so many beautiful places in California. But when I moved to Oregon, Oregonians had a deep pride of being from this state. And I understand it now, because I think when you have a love of nature and have a love of wanting to explore different areas and facing fears on things that you normally wouldn't do, you want to protect these places that you can find yourself in. And I understand why so many Oregonians are proud of where they're from, because of the beautiful natural resources that this state offers. So I just want to ask you, if you do decide to explore any of these 5 campgrounds that I've mentioned, I welcome you. I welcome you to do so. But please leave it better than you found it. These are our beautiful state's natural resources, and we want to all enjoy it. And we want to go back and find it better than we left it. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. This was really fun to do. It's really fun to think back as the temperatures get colder and what I get to look forward to next summer and new places that I'll explore and go back to. You best believe I'm going back to Camp Sherman, and you better believe I'm going to find myself a camp spot at Cultist Lake next summer, huh, Jasper? Jasper agrees. All right, guys, I hope this video finds you well, and I hope you're staying warm as the cool temperatures start to make their way in. And if you're in the warm part of the state, lucky you. Or not the warm part of the state. If you're in a warm part of the country, and you get to now enjoy cooler temps because winter is your time to do that, I hope you go out and explore your world. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video. Sending you peace and love. Until next time, go camping.